Hello and welcome to ET Garage. Today I'm going to discuss the that missing oil galley plug and what I'm thinking of doing. So let's get to it, I guess. All right, before I get into it, I want to thank everyone that took this that little survey that I did on my community section of my YouTube homepage. There, if you didn't know about it, I had a survey. Uh, But I also want to thank everyone so far that subscribed and liked and shared and all that stuff. But getting on to the survey, or let me, before I get into that, I'll just recap what I found. I was getting ready to do that intake swap. I'm going to be leaving a playlist for that. There's a playlist for Chinese intake. Uh, anyway, I took the intake off. I found one of the gallery plugs. I knew it was one of the left or the rights, and I found that in the right side front of the motor. Right side as in passenger, left as in drivers. I thought for sure it was going to be missing from the right side because I figured the chain spinning around in this direction would have thrown it up in that hole right there. But 57% of you, there were a total of 7 people that took the survey. 57% of you chose the right one, which was the left side or the driver's side. That's the one that was missing. I already have them out because I was working on it the other day. 0% chose the right side. If I would have took my own survey, I would have been the 1% that got it wrong. Oh, but there were 43% that thought it was the center one, which is for the camshaft and main bearings. I already knew that wasn't because I could tell by the size of the plug. I mentioned that in that one video. I'll leave a link to that video somewhere over there. And I'll leave a picture over here if you didn't see it already, where I found that plug at. Also, I'll show a picture before I took the plugs out. But anyway, like I said, thanks everyone who took that poll. And I'm going to move the camera around, show you what I've done so far and what I'm thinking of doing. Leave comments. Maybe I'll do another poll and get some feedback. I know what I'd like to do, and then that's going to make this project spiral cost-wise. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, let me move the camera around and we'll get into this. Okay, as you can see, I got all the oil plugs out. There's 3 of them in the front, 3 in the rear. 3 in the rear are threaded. The 3 up front are just pressed in. This one, you can see I tapped it already for a plug, and this is the important one. This one gets if this were to come out and I lost oil pressure to the bearings, the motor would be junk within minutes. So I'm glad it wasn't that one. So that one I tapped, and I'm going to put a plug in with Loctite. Or actually, I'm going to use it's a pipe thread sealer, combination pipe thread sealer Loctite. That stuff works great if you ever used it. When the 2 outer ones are for the lifters and lifter galleries. This would be the passenger side, the right side. That would be the left side or the driver side. I already removed those, and the way I did that, I drilled a hole, put a screw in it. I actually used a self-tapping one. Put a lot of grease on it, and just put that in there, and then took a pry bar and just pried it out. Same with the center one, same thing. Another way is you take the rear plugs out, which I got to take out anyway in order to clean these out. I got to take the block in order to get to them. I got to take this block off the engine stand up, so I'm just leaving them for now. I also need to get the cam and the lifters out, all that good stuff. But anyway, getting back to this, I don't have a tap for this size here. And I don't have plugs for that size. when they put these plugs in, they didn't put any sealer on them. Usually you put some type of sealer on them to hold them in place. I see some type of gray stuff in there, gunked up, and but it doesn't, they didn't do a very good job, and that's probably the reason this one popped out on me. But so I could put the plugs back in and just do it properly, clean this up real good, use that pipe threads, locking pipe thread sealer that I was talking about, and good to go. This one is really important, and it's also important that you don't go too far in, because then you end up blocking the hole. I don't know if you can see it in here, but there's a hole, I'd say about a ½ inch inward, that goes down, that feeds the front cam bearing and the front crankshaft bearing. That is when you put that thread tap and tap that with, and put threads and put the plug in. You got to make sure you don't go too deep and cover that hole. That's really important. Another thing is, what they do is they put a very tiny pinhole in the front of these on the lifter sides, and the reason you do that, and according to my research, they actually, some engines, some of the Vortec engines actually came with pinholes in them from the factory. And the reason they did that was the oil flowing to the front of the motor, there would be an air pocket here and would cause all sorts of lifter noise. So I'm going to go ahead and do that same factory modification. It also supposedly helps lube this this plate. This is where the camshaft gear will ride right against this plate here, the retaining plate for the camshaft, and also helps lubricate the chain. So I'm probably going to do that. By the time the oil gets to the end here, there's not much oil flow because it's going all through the lifters and everything, and that's the reason I had very little. I didn't notice any drop of oil pressure, really. I was getting like 70 psi at 2,000 RPM. So that's probably, even with these totally blocked, it's probably still would be 70 psi with the engine warm, of course, at 2,000 psi, because that's probably when the bypass in the pump probably opens up. So the pump's capable of pumping more volume and pressure than what the system's using, which is a good thing. That's just a factory Mellon replacement, OEM replacement oil pump, if you're wondering what I use. Standard volume, standard pressure. Never had any problems with them. Now, let's move the camera again, and we'll start getting into a few details about what I may or may not do. So, hold on a second. All right, here I have the cylinder head, and I'm trying to make a decision what to do here. I was thinking of sending these pistons out, pistons that came out through line-to-line coating, having them coat it, and just putting them back together with these heads. And I may upgrade the camshaft or may not. That would be the most budget-friendly way to do it. Of course, new rings and seals and stuff. But one thing I'm thinking of doing, whether I use these heads or not, is try and find somewhere around here where I can have them float. I've never had these float, and then everybody will know what these heads float. If you're not familiar with them, these are the original cylinder heads to this car. These are the L98 out of my 90 Corvette. These are the L98 heads, 113 castings. If you're not familiar with 113 castings, they are, you can tell them, one, by the D-ports, and inside here, inside the, where the, under the valve covers, where the valve springs and rocker arms go, there is casting, and on the end will be 113, the casting number. I ported these. These heads have been rebuilt twice. First time when I, at 189,000 miles, I built this originally built this 383, and they were built then, wore out. I put about 54,000 miles on them. Pretty much wore out the guides and valve stems on the intakes, and just the guides on the exhaust. Someone asked me why. All I could say is I have no idea. It's, yeah, probably a lot has to do with, I am using an aftermarket camshaft. Has a lot more, uh, it's a quick opening camshaft, which means it's going to be harder on the guides and valve train. I was using roller tip rockers and all that stuff. But anyway, getting back to this, these heads, when I refreshed this engine last year, so these have been refreshed twice. These heads have been rebuilt twice. They're still in really good shape as far as I can tell. I won't know until I get the valve springs off. But I could just clean these up and reuse them with those pistons. Get, like I said, the same pistons. Just give everything good cleaning and put back together. Or I could go the really expensive route. Go bigger, better flowing set of heads. The problem with that is if I go different heads, aftermarket heads, I'm also, right now I use Scorpion roller rockers, narrow bodies, and those are self-centering. If I go aftermarket heads, I will have to go non-self-centering, the ones that you use with guide plates. Even though this has guide plates, these are the factory guide plates. They're not real guide plates. You have to use self-centering rocker arms with them, or put real guide plates on them. If I go that route, it's the cost of the heads, another $400 for another set of roller rockers. Also, I'll probably have to get different push rods, because the aftermarket heads tend to be a little bit taller, so I'll have to get different push rods. And I'll probably go with different camshafts, so that's another expense. If I go the aftermarket head route, I might go bigger chambers and flat top pistons, so that's even more expense. Yeah, it can get expensive really quick. So I got to make that decision if I want to spend the money to do that. I'm thinking just staying with those pistons, these heads, and maybe a camshaft upgrade. I'm kind of leery on the camshaft upgrade. I like this cam. It works in the RPM range I want, whether it's with the tune port or the Chinese copy of the ProFlow that I'm going to be putting on it. So I'm seriously thinking of sticking with that camshaft. I really, even though the ProFlow is a better high RPM intake, I'm really not going to be using high RPM that much. So, you know, I even with track days, you know, occasional, every couple of years, I might take it down the drag strip. You know, it's just not seeing the top end, so I have to make a decision there. Maybe I'll do another poll on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section and all that good stuff. But it's freezing out here. I don't want to work on this motor today. It's supposed to warm up later in the week. I'll probably wait till then. And then once I send those pistons out, it's going to be like a month before I get them back anyway. Right? Before I send them out, I got to make that decision. In the meantime, I want everybody to have a great day, and God bless.